in a form of a mixture. You'll mix, it has a mix of predetermined and a learner-created content. Let's give an example. I may give the first session or lecture, and I give a PowerPoint, which I share with the students. In the PowerPoint, I leave questions that require the students to answer. And I request the students go and answer this, and then we meet in the discussion forum where you'll present to us whatever you should have gathered. The students will go out there, dig for all sorts of information, good and bad. And then they come and start submitting during the discussion forum. You'll find that some of the students will create very, very good content you don't even expect. Because they have a lot of time to dig around here and there, more than you probably. They'll even get across very good content that you didn't expect. So it's now learner-created content. By putting together all what is being discussed, the learners are actually doing what? Creating their own knowledge. So it's a mix. You gave them something to start with, they have built on that and created more knowledge out of it. So here, how we use the LMS is more into a structured communication. It's more of structured communication between learners, teachers, and all that happens. It is more facilitation happening. The teacher is facilitating. So when they give out the questions, they will allow learners to go and dig from anywhere. When the learners submit, they can come and facilitate and say, oh, this is very good content. They can say even, oh, no, this does not apply to this. And they remove it out of the one. During that participation, it is facilitation happening. Okay? So they will use the LMS as a shell for computer, as it will be more web-based learning resources being pushed in there. It is a gateway. It is used as a gateway to additional online materials there. So a lot of, some filtering is done, but a lecturer can say, go out there and dig. By telling them, go out there and dig, they've already let them out to go into a bit of deep learning. Go and search for information you need. They are not dictating on where. Or even the lecturer can dictate and say, go and read about ABCD only. So they are reading on their own, but they are more structured. They are more facilitated to go and. So the emphasis there is more about strategic learning, engaging learners in scaffolded activities. Scaffolded in the form of, you can get them in role play, word, and so on and so forth. And this looks more into personal autonomy required. You'll find that those learners that don't want they are not used to going out there and doing things of their own. They are affected at this point. And you'll note it that they will not participate in the discussion forums. They will have nothing to say. But they will wait to come and read from what others have done. And we have many of such learners out there. And online, we call them laggards. Many times they lag and wait to hear from others and learn from others. So they are a bigger component of our learners out there in that form. So here, in the transaction approach, you are more of a facilitator. You take on the role of a facilitator. The last approach is the transformation. How do we use this LMS when it comes to this? Remember, the content we put there is fluid in form. It is dynamic, and much of it is created by learners. Many times, what happens under transformation, the lecturer can come into the class and distributes the entire 12 topics to all the students in groups. And he says, group A, your topic is this, group B, your topic is this. The entire semester is distributed out and tells them go and collect information about this, come and teach the class. Deep learning, the students will go, dig for information around this, and then they come and present using a video virtual conferencing method to the rest of the students. In the end, the students will be teaching their fellow students the topic. And the lecturer here, the lecturer will be more of advising. And after presenting this, they will be required to deposit their presentation or their resources under the topic that has been presented by that group. So it's completely a student-led. And the lecturer will be there to advise only what is good will go on to the learning management system, but allow the students to engage and deep learn. So the content there is more about peer-to-peer content coming from discussions collected by groups, collected by, and so on and so forth. So the LMS in this form is going to be used more of a collaborative platform, because majority of what is going to be put there will be used by students who engage each other. So you need to understand, how do I want to use it? Is it in a transformation mode, transaction mode, or what mode? Yeah? Transmission, transaction, or transformation. So you need to know. So probably now you should be asking yourselves, whatever you've been doing in the LMS, where do you fall? But as we hinted in the past session, many people do a blend. You find that in the first 2 weeks, they use transactional. Then in the coming weeks, because the students are more knowledgeable, they dive into deep. When they see the students have gone so much off track, they go back into. So it's a bit of just know your learners. It will help you. Yeah, as I said, it is all about merging. Merge as much as you can. Merge when you feel you need to merge. The teaching approaches, the delivery methods. Okay, some of these I've already gone through them. I want to go to the learning object concept. Okay. Now, when you're developing the content, we talk about what we call instruction. It is the instruction that you put within the content that is going to offer you the ability either to transact, transmit, or to transform. So you need to understand the instruction. And there's a combination of different instructions, methods that you can engage. There's what we call expositive methods. Now, this is one which emphasizes the absorption of new information. This method includes, for example, presentation, case studies, worked examples, and demonstrations. You're exposing. It's an instruction. You simply create content, but your intention is to expose what is already there, whether it's in form of facts, whether it's in form of whatever you want to do. But it's sort of an instruction. You can decide that that is the form of instruction I'm going to take. But how will it get you to achieve, for example, the deep learning you want to really achieve? I may decide to expose by giving a case study in there, but then allow the students to go and use a role play activity to discuss and get me something out of this. So know how you are going to create the instruction that you really need to create within your content. There's what we call the application method. This emphasizes the active processes that learners use to perform procedural and principle-based tasks and build knowledge, activities. So whatever you put into the instruction you put in there, it's going to be getting these students to do more of applying, getting in and doing something. So you may create a lot of content, and then after one paragraph, you create a link and ask students to be able to engage in something. Either in 20 minutes, can you do ABCD? And then the students will jump into the chat session or discussion forum. In 20 minutes, they discuss something before you proceed to the next topic for discussion. But it's all about getting them to apply. You can present them scenarios, you can get them into role play activities, you can get them simulations, a lot. So what is that content and instruction you really want to avail your students? You just need to know and then decide on what to do. The last one is collaborative. I may decide to completely use the collaborative method of instruction, as already given to you in deep learning. Somebody may take that form, distribute all the 12 topics to all the students in groups. As an advisor, I come every lecture to simply advise. The group presents, and I'm there to advise. Create for them groups, role play, I would say, and so on and so many things for them. But you just need to know, for me, the instruction I want to get, because I want students to really be as collaborative as possible. I'm going to use only the collaborative form of instruction. And therefore, what allows you to do that? You look for all the tools that allow you to do that. For example, when we talk about these explosive formats, I just want to bring you some of the examples. If we are talking about this, when it goes into asynchronous, what is that you can do? When it goes to synchronous, what is that you can do? Asynchronous, as you're aware, these are things that happen not in real time. Activities that are undertaken not in real time. A discussion forum could be, you can post a discussion and allow students to come and discuss at any time they wish. So it is asynchronous. It's not done in real time. Synchronous, you have to do it there and then within a specified period of time. You come after that period of time, done. So in expositive, when you decide to go that direction and you are looking for asynchronous, for example, you can create all these PDF documents, and all of these don't have interactivity in them, and dump on the LMS. They have content in there for students to read, but they're not interactive at all. The presentation you are going to give, the next lecture, you come and dump it there. They will read it, but there is nothing in there for them to engage and all that. Okay? This is asynchronous. Or it could be an interactive e-lessons using text, images, and all that. If there are some already tools out there where you can allow students that you go on such and such a one and try to put, for example, Cisco has some of them. The content is out there. Students can go at any time they wish, but it can allow them to engage with that activity themselves at any time and configure a switch, for example. They will put this here, it fails to work. They put it somewhere else, it fails to work. It's like when they are telling kids to put these images in the right positions until, you see, it is interactive in a form, but you are doing it on your, they don't require you to do it in a certain specified period of time. Okay? It could be, sorry, internet is going to go off because of the phone call. It could be audios or videos, lessons that are recorded, and remember, it is expositive method. They give it to you, they have content for you to listen to and all that and all. But when you decide to go to the synchronous, what would you do in synchronously, but using the expositive method? Could be a presentation through a video conferencing. You are giving them facts, you are giving them knowledge, but it's now in your time with the facilitator. Once they are cut off and they're done, we are all gone. Once the network goes off now, I'll go off and you people, probably you'll be there seeing nothing and no person responding from this side. So this is synchronous. Then there could be, the instructor can use special software that usually includes a range of synchronous tools. At the moment, there are so many tools out there. We just need to know which are specifically good for us to learn. When it comes to application, what are those asynchronous you can use? This could be interactive e-lessons using combination of animations and operation simulations. Animations and simulations. And when you go to synchronous virtual classrooms, I don't know how many of you have interfaced with virtual reality classrooms and all that, which are very, 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 very good. They are becoming more known now than ever before. When we move into, okay, there are different types of, when you get into what? When you get into application, they are different. This one is, for example, demonstration. Application takes on demonstration. It can take on job aids. It can take on scenario-based. What do you do if you decide to go the scenario-based way? That my instruction is going to be, I'm using application, but I'm going to use scenarios. So what can I do if I need to offer something asynchronously or synchronously? There are certain things you need to do. For example, asynchronously, you can do interactive e-lessons. That is okay. Synchronously, you can go for activities with challenges to solve either individual or in group using whiteboards. You've seen whiteboards where they are telling people, okay, there is something, and then each one of you respond about this. And the lecturer releases this information at once. Then you find for you, you answered something which was completely off track. But everything is being released on the whiteboard, and they tell you, can you explain what you meant? And clearly you can't even explain what you meant. But everybody is now seeing everything that was responded to by all participants. So there's quite a lot that you can do. You just need to understand explicitly what is that you are supposed to be doing. Role play. Asynchronously, it could be things related to experiential simulations. Role play conducted in groups. And then synchronously could probably get a group activity by learners using chats. It is real time. You know, you go into the LMS, put all students into groups, and then create chat sessions for different, and then give them a topic or something to deal with. It will be real time that they will do it in that specific time, but in a group. And each one of them may be actually playing a certain role, depending on the type of questions that you are availing. Okay. There is the collaborative instructional method. This is the way you hear it is collaboration. Your teaching becomes more of collaborative. You would want more and more engagements to happen as much as possible. The beauty of this, all these can be done within our learning management systems we have. It's just understanding how you can able do them. Okay? You need to know how you can able do them, but they can all be done in there. Okay, that's all about. Now, when we get into communication and collaboration, I've been talking about the collaboration and all. There are quite a variety of tools we have. Some within our LMSs and some even beyond. Today, we are seeing many of teachers or instructors out there tapping into the ability of other tools to support them in their learning. What happens, they create an account and invite the students to participate into, for example, whiteboards of different nature. They put the link into the LMS and the students click on it and they go into the other. And they collaboratively work together. There are some tools out there which are very, very, very good. So, but what they do is they bring out this social ability that allows individuals to work together in a very collaborative way to achieve a goal. Some are synchronous and some are synchronous. So I hope you are not confusing the two words, synchronous and asynchronous. Just need to understand them. That one is in real time and the other is not in real time. So, when we talk about, for example, synchronous learning activities, there's so many you can do. Building community relationship, leading interactive modeling sessions, differentiating instruction for small groups, personalized instructions, guiding practice application, real-time facilitating real-time conversations, fostering collaboration amongst, and then real-time feedback on. These are synchronous, they're happening in real time. The moment it's happening in real time, just know you have gone into a synchronous mode. Okay. Now, I just want to go into the learning object so that we have more time for questions and probably the moving into the actual LMS to see how this explicitly happens. As I said, all what we have discussed can happen within the current LMSs we are having, especially Moodle, which is being run by many of our institutions. But you just need to understand how to do it. But the functionality is already in there. Okay, I'll move first to where I want us to go. Okay, okay, there are certain things as you are developing content to avail to your students within the learning management system. There are certain things you need to be asking yourself and considering. As I already discussed, we need to know the rationale. Why are you doing it? Delivery, how and when and where do you want to deliver it? The what? Is it a book or more? What is that? What is that you want to offer to your students? Now that takes you back to the instruction method also you want to use. So look at, there are certain things you are going to look at very explicitly. The approach, the delivery method, now the instruction. Instruction is more about the content. It relates so well with the delivery and the approach. So you're not going to separate all these from each other. Look at the design. What should it look like? The content, what is it in it? What is that in it? When we talk about the content, it has even activities in there. What are those activities in there? Because those activities are going to be facilitating the acquisition of knowledge in that content you are being available. So we need to think about that. Let's think about our audience. Okay? When we talk about who, when we talk about when do we want to deliver this? Where do we want to deliver it? These are examples I'm just giving. Ask yourself all those questions. But for you, what you need to know, always as you, the instructor, as a teacher, as whatever you may call yourself, an advisor. Internet. Slow. So, somebody I think is calling me on WhatsApp. Okay. What is your obligation? In this era, you need to be able to use the available technology to support you in delivering that online class. We have moved away from teacher-centeredness to student-centeredness, and therefore, we need to be able to encourage as much as possible collaborative learning. And takes a lot of burden away from you for your information. You're allowing students to become more independent learners. You need to be able to lay a foundation for lifelong learning. If you keep on using the surface approach, you're not getting your students to move into lifelong learning, so that at a particular point in time, they can sit and go out there and dig information for themselves and be able to learn. You need to be able to incorporate the old and the new. You don't get rid of the old teaching methods. How do you blend them? So that we are not saying the old are bad, because they use the old to teach us probably. Technology is just here today. It has not been there, but we learned even in a much better way. So we need to see how we blend. In any virtual online learning, what is most important is the feedback students regularly get during their learning. They want to receive this. So the moment they don't get that, then you have a problem. They will drop out. They will not learn better. And they will look helpless. I've already looked at all this. I just wanted to get us here, and this will mark these introductory concepts we wanted to look at, reminding ourselves about this form of instruction. When we say use the learning object, this is one that has been internationally accepted. This was developed first by a gentleman called Wally, so many years back, but it has gone being transformed into now what we have even what we call the higher education learning object concept. But it supports to create this granularity within the content that you have and you want to deliver to your students. These are theories of learning that all of us know, and probably some under, but they're just all what we are doing. You see people moving into the virtual learning, but it's entirely being governed by two theories: constructivism and it's the Guyanese theories of instruction. These are supporting a lot the development of the tools that are embedded within learning management system. When they talk about a discussion forum, why? On what basis is it evolved? It has theoretical grounding, feedback generation, and things of that kind. But let's go to the learning object. This is majorly used for authoring content. But what you need to do before you move into the actual learning object, you need to be ready. Because for it, it's giving you a structure in which you can author your content. So what do you start with? You need to be able to identify the appropriate content to be used for authoring. And usually this is expected from a subject matter expert. You as an instructor, as a teacher, you are the subject expert. And I'm sure you have probably your document in Microsoft Word somewhere, in your PDF somewhere, which has your resources with you. That is the initial stage you start with. But this is what we call appropriate content material. It can be in form of user manuals. It can be classroom course handouts. It can be presentations. It can be documented case studies, photographs, images. It can be training materials, learning materials, reference material. This is what you start with. It is now that you will take and create instruction around it. You either go and say, I'm going to expose it, application. You decide collaborative around this content you already have, but based on a renowned principle. Okay? So what I can say here that existing training material and documents without instructional design principles cannot be automatically transformed into e-learning material. If it doesn't have the instructional principles, it's not e-learning material. However much you would want to call it e-learning material, it is not. Because it does not have the principles embedded in there. So there are certain tips that I would want to give you for you to be able to get what you want. Before developing content for the assigned lessons, review the proposed learning objectives for that lesson. For the course unit you want to develop, because they are already there in the curriculum. Review them. Then make sure that the content and knowledge assessment tests and exercises match the lesson objectives at every step in the workflow process. If you have all this content with you already, and every topic that you have either an assessment on it, you have a topic for discussion, just make sure that everything flows together. Everything is correlating well, and all leading to the main objective of the course unit data. Then provide all the knowledge needed to meet the learning objective, including information that may seem obvious to you, but may not be obvious to others. If you are availing content, try to go and dig out for content, create all this material and know I'm ready with all the material needed for this course unit. Use examples that are likely to be familiar to most. Know your class. When you avail an example that is going to be contradictory, or that is going to look as a problem to some of the learners, examples that are going to be either feminist or things of that kind, So be careful. There are topics in there, depending on the delivery method you are taking. There are what we call a must know and a nice to know. There are some topics which you can allow the students to go out and learn on themselves. And therefore, what do? You can decide to completely use a collaborative instruction around that topic. And let them, the students, do, because you know, it is a nice to know. But a must to know, which you think even you are going to go ahead and do assessments and all that, there are certain things that you don't have to lose out. And therefore, a certain instruction needs to be put into place. So the technique of instructional design just involves 3 phases, as simple as that. You have the content gathering, you have the content instruction, and then you have the content presentation. What happens is that many people miss out on the middle, and they do the first one and the last one. They gather content in their Word documents, all sorts of things, and then they jump into the learning management system and they start populating it in the way they want. Forgetting that the content needs to be instructed. Build principles of instructions around it so that it can be able to deliver to the learning goal which needs to be achieved. So this is the process that needs to be followed. So as I say, the learning object is just an entity which can be digital or not, which can be used to assist in knowledge construction based on a single learning object. Used by Cisco sometime, but Wari was the first person to develop the learning object. But Cisco has been able to develop this to now a more professional way, and they are using it in the best way possible. So, but even other people have come up with different definitions. For example, learning objects is about granularity, reusability, interoperability, and aggregation. When we look at let's take an example of a learning object in a physical way. If you take a book, Introduction to E-Learning, it has 134 pages. In that Introduction to E-Learning, it has subtopics, 10 of them. So Introduction to E-Learning has a subtopic 1, subtopic 2, subtopic 3, subtopic up to 10. So what it means that when you start reading this book, the first thing you read is an overview of this book before you jump into each subtopic. When you move into a subtopic, it will avail also an overview of the subtopic before it presents all the content within that subtopic and the rest of the information. But you'll find that when you are completing to read that subtopic, they usually put questions to test your understanding that you acquired after reading the subtopic. They can even present to you questions of discussions. Now, what they are doing is that you are learning out of this subtopic, they are assessing you, and then even they're telling you, you can discuss more about this. Even they can provide more referencing material just under one subtopic before you move into another second subtopic. And you'll find the same and the same and the same and the same up to the 10 topics. the books are written in the form of a learning object. So when we move into a digital form and we are to develop our content in that way, we create granularity around our topic in a form of a learning object that we shall disintegrate all this topic into smaller chunks of content, which we call reusable learning objects, no, reusable information objects. So a learning object contains what we call information objects, which now are those topics, subtopics. So what am I trying to say? This is the example I'm trying to bring forward. That a book has an overview. So a learning object has an overview. When you see ROLO, it is reusable learning object. And I will tell you why it is reusable. So when you are developing your content, this is a topic you have. This entire topic within the LMSC, the moment you go into the LMSC, you are supposed to first tell the students, give them an overview about this entire course module. Don't you do it? I'm sure you do it. Unknowingly, you're providing your students an overview about the entire course unit. Before now, you break it into the weeks you see. Okay? So what you see that here, these are reusable information objects. These are subtopics now within that topic. And now after going through all those particular topics, you have a summary. But what is very, very important that you need to understand, that there is an assessment, because learning without assessment, you don't understand whether people have learned or not. There's an assessment below here, which is linked to each and every information object and the overview. Why are we linking an assessment onto the overview? Now, this sort of assessment, this is linked to the overview. Now it is assessing at the topic level, which you call an exam. You have individual assessments for each and every topic, but remember at the end of the entire topics, all of them, you have an exam. And that's why you see there is an assessment at the overview level. This was transformed into what we call the higher education learning object concept, the way it is developed here. You can go and try to dig around this. The second one, there is a paper that we produced so many years back, which has this model, and you see how it has been used over time. But you see the overview, the information objects, which are more of the topics, and the summary. But each one of these has what we call the practical and assessment. Because if it's a practical subject, in each topic, there are practical sessions that are going to be offered. Even if it's a theoretical topic, there are role plays that are going to be offered. They come into form of practical objects in there because they will be applying, depending, remember, the delivery methods you are deploying, the approach you are deploying, the instruction you are putting in there. If you are put, even if it's a theoretical topic, and you end up putting role plays into the information objects here to support you in getting the students understand better, it's more of a practical object in there. It's an activity leading you to understand the practical nature of that particular subtopic. So once you're able to design your content in this form, then it becomes very easy for you to move this content from one SCORM to another, from one LMS to another. Let me give you an example. If there is somebody teaching about research methods, then there is another topic that requires a subtopic called quantitative analysis. And research methods was developed in the form of a reusable learning object. Me, the person teaching the other subject, which requires quantitative analysis, I can come easily and extract out this information object called quantitative analysis. And I take it and I embed it into my topic and use it without changing anything. That is the principle following the SCORM, IEEE, and the like standards. And that is why it is called reusable learning object, that you can reuse it in any way, in any form. So once we are able to create all sorts of that content, then we have the ability to share content here and there without any problem. So you just need to try it out. This is another way of looking at the reusable learning object, but now focusing it to our institutions and how it relates. If you can see how it relates, that the course you are teaching is developed by the department where you are, of which the department is within the school, and the school is within the university. So the course, it could be Bachelor of Information Technology. In there are so many modules. The modules are the reusable learning objects, which are created by specific instructional designers here, of which that instructional designer falls under department, of which the department is under school, and the school is under university. So you see the granularity around all this. So it's another way of looking at this reusable learning object and trying to understand it and how it relates to what we do. So it's a simple concept that can be adopted if one wanted to really embed instruction in what they do. Now, further diving into what it really does. When you are trying to offer an overview, what do you put in there? We expect all the details that you need to give us. Tell us the aim, the learning outcomes, the prerequisites, if there are any, co-requisites, and so on and so forth. You can even tell the students in there, an overview, these are the assessment methods we are going to use, and ABCD, so that they clearly know this is what is expected of us. But many times we hide all this information from the students, and they find surprises when the time comes. Okay, when you look at the summary, what is in there? This is also what we are supposed to prevent at the summary. That is at the end of the entire. Not after the 10th week and the lessons have ended, we end. Create a summary side so that you are summing up the entire 12 weeks of teaching virtually. Now, this is further breaking now deeper into the object. But now here, trying to relate the actual objectives of this particular objectives of this particular design of the learning object. Let's take an example. We have a module called web design using Dreamweaver. That is what we want to do. It's a module. And we have 3 main objectives to be achieved. Now, these 3 objectives, the way you see them here, they can relate to certain topics. Probably there are 9 topics under that particular module. And you find that the first 3 topics relate to the first objective. This fourth, fifth, and sixth objective, topics relate to the second objective, and so on and so forth. So you'll find that it becomes very easy for you to assess knowledge acquisition for this student. Because when you know they have failed to achieve in a certain area, then you know objective 1 was not achieved. Because if they fail to achieve knowledge in objective 1, 2, or 3, then there's a problem in that particular section, and you know where to go and deal with. So it's all about the granularity that you create, relating the topics to the actual objectives under study. So it's very, very, very important. Actually, Cisco uses it a lot in generating real-time feedback to the learners, because it will clearly know when you fail this assessment, it tells the system that these sections of the content were not learned properly. And that is why this person is failing this assessment, because it's directly linked to a certain parts of the content. So when you are able to put together this in relation to that, it becomes so easy for one to do what? To instructionally design their content. Again, that is a sample of the learning objects. Now, as you avail the content to these students in the LMS, they have to access. You know, you are delivering it, but to them, they have to access it. They can access it via what we call an iPull or an iPush. And all this depends upon you, the instructor. iPull is that you allow students to start from anywhere. You create content and dump it in there, and they can start from any topic. Whether they know or they don't know, they can start from the 10th topic. And they fail, and they know that, oh, I'm supposed to start from the first. But then there's certain instruction where you say, no, I want the students to logically go through the training. They start from topic 1. They will never access topic 2 until they've finished topic 1. So that means the system is pushing to them. So it's an iPush to them. Many times people do iPush. They allow students to pull when they see they are very conversant, or they are not conversant with what they are doing. The system triggers and changes and say, okay, now you don't understand what you are doing. Now you are supposed to logically go through topic 1 up to. Or they might start with iPush, and you see you are wasting a lot of time. Students know topic 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then it triggers and opens up and allows them to go. Because you have a variety of learners within that class. So all that instructional design concept that we need to know when we are creating content for us to use virtually. Now, this is just an example of how the higher learning object concept is put forward and what happens around the different things around it. Okay, this is all about content presentation. Okay, I think what is now ahead of us is going to be demonstrated within the learning management system. And for the introductory concepts, we are ending with that sort of content that you've been availed. We'll avail you the slides so that you can read more about it. But at this point in time, I would want to thank you for being a good class, though I'm not seeing whoever is in there. But hi. Okay, so But it is time for questions. If there are any questions, if there are any concepts that need to be explained much better, I have quite colleagues of mine here that can come in. We have the e-learning experts here. Joseph Previs is here, and Dr. Drake Minem is also here. They will be able to also come in when we are trying to go into this session of questions.
Yes, I don't know whether you can start with those ones which were raised in the Q&A. When you click Q&A, you are able to see one question where they are saying, give examples of transactional versus transformation learning. I believe you answered that one. And then there is another question from Levi, which is saying that I will handle the second. When you click on Q&A.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so maybe you can respond to them live, or you can live. And then there are also some raised hands in the system. So I don't know which one you would like to start with. There are 2 raised hands, and then also.
Now it's hard for me to know all of them.
Under Q&A.
Yes, I'm working it here, but I don't know.
Answer the ones.
I don't know where.
No.
You're in comment. Hey, I'm in comment. Sorry.
You're in the Q&A. This one.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
So they are giving 2 examples and then something like that. So maybe you can respond to those, and then we allow people to ask.
A class of 150 students on Agriculture Box, they were drawn from education officer, agriculture, occupation, face-to-face and coding all university, but also hands-on. Still have a challenge on the development of an e-learning platform for such diversity. How humanly can this be undertaken? Okay, I think here the idea is being able to support all types of learners within a class. You've offered using face-to-face exposure, practicals of lab, and now what I need to inform, especially people who are doing practical sessions, there are quite a variety of ways that you can support your students in practical sessions. You can be able to engage them in simulations. There are quite out softwares there that can support simulations. You just need to know which ones are they. In agriculture, in engineering, in all sorts of things. They're out there. I can't mention many because I may not know them, but I know there are quite many out there. So to me, I think if you want to engage them practically, simulations would be one of the things you would engage them in. And then also, students out there, even if you are not with them, you can encourage them to participate in their practical application of the content by going into the field and trying out by themselves and then recording themselves and submitting these small videos, which can now be scrutinized by the lecturer and fellow students to know exactly if they are really on the right track or not. Many of them have smart mobile phones, and they can be able to capture this. And for information, it allows student knowledge construction. Students can be able to perform very good practical sessions that their fellow colleagues can learn from. So it's being innovative, as simple as that. With regard to continuous assessment, which is best for self-paced e-platform guided when combined with a broad-based face-to-face teaching and learning, summative assessment or formative assessment. I think you need to understand the objective of the assessment. Summative is more of an exam. Formative is more of trying to get to know if the participants have understood the concept within that specific topic you are teaching. It is more formative. Summative usually comes at the end and usually combines assessing or around the entire objectives. For example, you saw around on the learning object, the summary. That is where usually the summative comes in. How can lecturers overcome the challenge of assessing learners who do coursework using Sharp GTP? Yes, we have a problem with that now. The one method is that change the method of assessment. Get the students to practically come and apply the knowledge to you. Have your questions and interview these students around the subject area. Because your interest is to know whether they actually understood what you taught. So can you get them into an assessment whether they will come on, whether it's a virtual using video conferencing and the rest of the students are also listening? You'll be able to know whether they actually know or they do not know. Two, if you have a software called Turnitin, plagiarism software, when the students submit this file that has been shared with you containing the assessment, pass it through a Turnitin software. They've developed already, I would say, plugins that can trap elements of AI-generated content. That can also help. But to me, the simplest way is to avoid giving such assessments that are going to allow students to go and request ChatGPT to do the work for them. Avoid them as much as you can. In your opinion, between asynchronous and synchronous mode of teaching, a large class, where most students come from a low knowledge level of technology use, which method may be practical and impactful? I would say that both of them can be impactful depending on what you are teaching. There are some concepts that need you as a lecturer to be there and you have to engage in real time, so that now you engage with the students face to face in real time. But then there are some others where you just want them to go and let them have their time on their own. So it depends on what you are teaching. But both can be impactful. Those who are having hands, please can allow them to ask, and then we'll get
Frederick and Lucy, you have a raised hand. Please unmute and ask the question. Lucy, please go ahead, Lucy.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Professor, for that very wonderful presentation. I would really have liked to see the instructional design model.
We would appreciate you introducing yourself and where you're from, such that the audience is able to...
Okay. My name is Dr. Lucy Ndegwa. I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Education, Karatina University, Kenya.
Thank you.
When Professor was presenting, he went very fast, and there was an instructional design model that I'd really have liked to see. And I just want to request Professor to just take us through very, very briefly on that design model. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Another question from Frederick. You have a raised hand. Please ask your question. Lucy, is it okay if you specify the instructional design model you inside that Prof goes directly to it?
I didn't get time to read it. That's why I'm interested in it. I just saw an A and a D, I think analysis and then design.
Okay.
And then I didn't get, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is this the one you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Let me just
now-
capture that.
Why I actually skipped this is because I had already been talking about all this. We talked about the analyzing the learners and all that. And then how you take these learners, the information you've got into the actual design, where you decide to decide on the approach you are going to use, the delivery method you are going to use, and now also the instruction method you are going to deploy. So I thought I actually was going through, I didn't want to go through it in this form. And then developing is now putting into practice exactly what you have decided upon, to embed it into the actual content you already have. And then implementing this now, rolling it out to the students for them to use and all that. So I had already been going through all this. That's why I'm sorry I went through very fast because I knew. But a lot of this had already been catered for. I don't know if I answer you.
Yes, thank you, Professor. Yeah, thank you, Professor. I wanted the acronym. At least I wanted to know what the whole of it, what it stands for. Yeah, so we can call it ADDI, ADDI. Thank you.
There's actually an image.
Okay, Frederick, your hand is still raised. Can you go ahead and ask the question? Frederick Joel Waje. Frederick Joel Waje. Possibly Frederick is not going to ask a question, so we can now move ahead. So please go ahead. Oh, there is another question from Wilbur in the Q&A. Prof, maybe you can check.
Students can take
I think it is like a comment. Suppose he is saying students can be asked to undertake a physical project and take short videos and pictures while physically working out the project. These are screen shared online while presenting to eliminate AI in the system. They share skills and creativity. Okay, thank you, Wilbur.
I just think whoever is asking the question on AI, one thing that you have to do to counteract AI, you have to go to what Prof indicated, in-person kind of knowledge acquisition assessment. What you are seeing is that we are moving from assessment by recall methods, yeah, to more about in-person testimonies and interviews of the work we've done through practical presentation. So if, for example, I've given students of software engineering to write an application, mobile application, they can go to AI and they write very good code. So if they submit the code to me and they review the code will be exactly amazing stuff. And the students have done nothing. But what we do is you get these students present their work. Okay? So if I ask you, how did you do this and why did you do it that way? So the students, because they are in person, yeah, the AI, they cannot put the AI in their head. Yeah? So basically, as educators, what we have to shift is that move to portfolio-based assessment, which allows you easier interactions, okay? And that creates more personalized learning, okay? And give personalized feedback. Actually, this is the principle of student-centered learning, problem-based, yeah? But otherwise, of course, the challenge for most other people would be, you have the resources. When you bring students closer to you as an instructor, they demand more of your time. It's more or less personalized learning. So this goes back to institutions now, issues around policy and the ecosystem management. A lecturer's contact time with a student may be maybe 10 hours a week. But actually, if I go this direction, maybe I'm spending 40 hours because I am to deal with one student or multiple students to ensure there's kind of personalized feedback and close mentorship and technical support.
Thank you very much, Dr. Drake Mirembe. Now there is another question from Vivian Chiwara. He's saying, thank you for a very enlightening presentation. I joined in a bit late due to network challenges. Are there free software or APIs that we can access to enhance the e-learning teaching and learning experience, e.g. through animation? I believe you are going to introduce them to this. So you can respond, but I think there are tools for animations. I think they are there. You are going to go through them, isn't it? Yes. You are going to go through them, and so just to be on standby, you access these free tools. So if there is no other question, yes, please, Thomas, Dr. Thomas Odong, you have a raised hand.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. Mine is the issue of timing. You see, now we have the students who are working, the students who have so many courses. So then in terms of, let's say we have a semester that it's fixed. And then the student at one point telling you, I have no internet, I have no this, how will you? Because it looks like we have so many excuses in Africa that we seem we cannot move any far. How do we sort out these issues? I've been teaching online some students from University of Zimbabwe, even Chambogo. So sometimes you really, and the same student also, by the time you actually ask them, other people also want their time there. And they're working, so you cannot actually have them that all the time they can go and have all this discussion. So it becomes a little bit difficult to actually, whether you're more or less like teaching physically. So the issue then, if I am going to say, well, if the student is not available now, I need to adjust my time. So now that becomes really, really, really challenging. So how do we get our students to adopt this, or how,
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I think these issues are not technology things. These are just mindset challenges. Okay. And recently we completed the work when I did a strategic plan for African Education Union. And also recently we're working on the national ICT policy for Uganda. And the key element that surprised us most, and I'm going to give you a very good live example. When Uganda Revenue Authority came and said, every business owner must submit interface with us through e-services. Yeah. Even the remotest in Karamoja, you must apply for your tax services online. You don't go anywhere. If you're running a supermarket or a hardware, you must connect your point of sale through the e-free system. And people say, you know what, it is impossible. There is no internet, there is no power. You are saying, you know what, if you want to remain in business, do it. And what has happened? Revenue collection has gone up. You get it? So what we learn from this is the same ecosystem. In Karamoja, where a school teacher is complaining of limited access to the internet, someone is running a business. You get it? Mm. So what really changes, actually, to me, so yes, there are structural challenges, but I think the fundamental element at our institutions are two things. One, we need policies that are contextual at work. Okay? Of course, there's an edit investment, but the next, we need to work significantly on mindset. Yes. And unfortunately, when you're looking at the investments in the ICT and e-learning in particular, they are largely technology-oriented and capacity-oriented around technology use, skills development. But limited is done on strategic leadership for institutional change. Leaders don't know how to drive value from e-learning. Okay? So someone thinks by putting a server there or training, hiring a good technician, I have solved the problem. No. For many years, we go to Makerere University. We ran a lot of trainings on e-learning. But ask yourself, what's the level of usage At one point, actually, it's called the College of Computing. And I think the next one was KAIX that we are leading. Yeah? But the platform has been here for over 10 years. Okay, what's the problem? Mindset change. And the other aspect of institutional structures and systems. As I've told you, right now, when I'm as a lecturer, when I'm teaching, Thomas indicated, the students will interrupt you. And I'm at home, I'm supposed to be, it's a Sunday, someone will send me WhatsApp with a message on the e-learning system, you need support. Does the human resource appraisal system recognize that effort? What's the difference between me, who attends a student promptly and enhance their learning experience, and the lecturer who says, I'm in a class Monday to Friday, I don't attend to email or anything until the following day. That's the difference. In e-learning, it is anytime, any place, anywhere. So when those elements are not appropriately addressed, it frustrates the learners. And that's where you get some rejection. Yeah. So institutional structures must change to recognize the new reality. Okay. Secondly, the people, the educators must adapt to the new reality. That's all. But the rest of these others, they will always be there, but they are not insurmountable.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just like Paul was saying that the university, oh, we have adopted this, but then at the end of the day, what is it? Remember the issue of Mwele when they're saying, well, I mean, at one time said that you people, you're teaching us to teach using Mwele, but you're teaching us using Zoom. So yourself, you're not leading by example. No.
To give you a very good example, when COVID came and the vice chancellor said we go to e-learning system, nobody knew the capacity of the servers at the network to handle what is going on. You get it? So that's why stabilizing Mwele up to now is actually a learning process, because that means the structures, the institutional systems, and the structures were not ready for e-learning. And if someone goes there, he gets frustrated. So you see, man, the thing doesn't work. You set your exams on time, the thing has broken down. Yeah. So you say, instead of doing it twice, let me not use Mwele and do something else.
Thank you very much. So we have around 4 hands again in the system. Maybe we can start with Levi. Levi, please go ahead. And then after Levi, we go to Sula, Samoy, and then we have Lucy, and finally Frederick. So we start with Levi. Levi Akundabweni. Levi, please go ahead. Levi.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have loudspeaker problem. Am I being heard?
Yes, kindly introduce yourself and where you're from, such that the audience can know more about you. We are hearing you clearly.
Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes. You are clear. Please go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for the interesting presentation right from the start up to now. I have a comment here, and I would like to see that really the e-learning culture.
We don't know where you're from. Let me introduce yourself.
But my problem is that when we are looking at the onset of COVID, and I was in Southern Africa, I realized that across the region, we all started this online teaching in a very confused and uncoordinated way. And I've been a bit interested to see, as I moved up in East Africa, that we have a problem of standardizing the approach, and different colleagues and institutions are really doing this in a very different way, where lecturers will simply throw notes for students to read, and that is taken as online teaching. I doubt it. We have other problems that students, not all of them, have laptops because of financial limitations. And so the landscape, the terrain is very irregular. We have even other circumstances where lecturers themselves do not have laptops. If they have, they are their own, and certain institutions don't provide laptops. So I would wish that RUFORUM would take an occasion to really, survey across the member institutions to see the uniformity and point out some of the limitations that exist, because on paper, this looks attractive. On the ground, we still have limitations, which I think have not been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Levy. So please respond to Prof. Levy's question.
Yeah, I think there are three things he raises. Prof, thank you very much. Number one, infrastructure limitations at institutional level. And number two is the pedagogical approaches being deployed by the instructors, again, at that level. And of course, I think the targeted learning outcome. So when you look at the issue of level of participation, even when you run a physical class, you'll be very lucky that if you got 90% attendance every day. So definitely there'll be those people that for some reason or the other, they may not attend. However, when we look at inclusion, or what you call inclusive approach, you try as much as possible to eliminate the barriers. But when you hear what Professor is mentioning, it goes back to the two fundamental principles: institutional preparedness, okay? But also the instructors or the lecturers' preparedness. Colleagues, I want to give a practical example. Personally, I worked in the university for nearly 18 years. I have never received a university laptop in my life. So when you are an engineer, you get your tools of trade. Should really a lecturer pay to buy a laptop, waiting for an institution to provide one? I disagree. Companies across the world are using a principle called bring your own device. When our fathers were coming to start working, they used to get a driver and a secretary. Today, when you apply for an international, most of these are important jobs. They give you a laptop and they give you the car keys. They expect you to come with a driving permit together with a laptop. A laptop is your secretary, the car keys, your permit is your own driver. So I essentially think as people coming from developing countries where resources are limited, we need to be creative and take advantage of technology and minimize creating structural barriers to propagate technology. That's what I feel. Yeah. So, and again, that goes to mindset, the principle of mindset, that I need to be provided a laptop. Yeah. But in some areas of trade, people come with their tools of trade. And my message to all of us in this forum is that let's be creative, minimize the barriers so that technology can be used for good. Otherwise, we will create situations which you cannot easily break out. Yeah. So that's, I think, my strong message. Robert.
Thank you.
No, I agree.
Thank you.
The same student can be on WhatsApp, can be on what all the time. But once they say for lectures, they say they have no this, they have no that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. We have also raised hand from Frederick Joel Waje. Frederick, please go ahead.
I'm Frederick Joel Waje from Montejo University. My question has been answered. I was asking for the presentation, but I'm told it is going to be sent. I've already sent my email address. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Okay, you're welcome, Frederick. Okay, I think we don't have any other raised hands. Maybe we can now move to the next stage. We have few minutes towards lunch. And in Ugandan time, not other countries. Well, we have so many countries around, over 40 countries. So
The time zone
might be different. That's why I'm specifically saying for East African time. Yeah, so we have some few minutes and then we shall break off for lunch and then we come back. So
the break, 30 minutes.
1 hour. I'm going to break off for 1 hour.
Okay.
In the next few minutes. Maybe we have like 10 minutes. Should we allow people to continue asking questions?
Yes, if we are in it.
Okay, so I'm told the floor is still open for questions. You can go ahead and ask your questions before we break off for lunch. Is there any question? You can raise your hand if you have a question, or you can post question on the. You don't have to post your emails because we already have the emails in the system. We shall send, or when you register, the system captures your email. So we are going to send you the materials and the links for the recording. So we have a raised hand from Isau Wisindo. Please go ahead and ask your question, but you introduce yourself also, such that we know where our people are coming from.
Okay, thank you. My name is Isau Wisindo. I'm from Angola, lecturer in Faculty of Agrarian Science of University José Eduardo dos Santos in Huambo, in Central Plateau of Angola.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is I want all to ask. I have a limitation on language, so I want to ask the program and the presentation that you can share with participants. This is all for me.
Yes, we are going to share.
Will you use our email address that we put in the register?
Yes, the ones you already used for registering, because we have all of you, we have your emails in the system. When you register, the system capture. So we are going to send the materials in those email addresses.
Okay, many thanks, many thanks.
Okay, thank you, Isau. So we have also a raised hand from Joseph. Joseph Maitaria. Please go ahead and ask your question. Joseph, I think you removed your hand again.
There's someone.
Yeah.
Your hand, so.
He has already. Lucinda has already asked a question. Wanted to.
Okay, not today.
Joseph, I think you had a raised hand. I don't know whether you are still going ahead to ask the question. And then, Joseph, please unmute yourself and ask the question. You are allowed to talk. Joseph, please go ahead.
My question has already been answered. Actually, I was asking about materials if they are going to be sent, and you have already answered that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joseph.
Just let me ask this one.
Okay, there is a question from Dr. Thomas Solom.
In terms of, from your own experience, which institution would you say is the role model here in e-learning? Say
I must say is that all of us are still walking the journey. There are certain institutions that have encouraged their staff to really move into adopting, but they can adopt without the right infrastructure in place. So it's for one to be ready, you need a lot in place. Capacity building, you need the infrastructure in place in terms of internet connectivity, infrastructure that is used for developing content and all that. So there is quite a lot that is needed for us to say that this institution is well in place. I wouldn't say Makerere. Makerere has been there for some time in e-learning, so many years. But again, as it was noted by my colleague here, they are not here where they need to be. But some, you find that some institutions now have even e-learning studios, and they are developing content, e-content. And so several of them are trying, but I wouldn't want to say that this is a model for you to go and benchmark, get there and you find and you get disappointed.
But I can give an answer, contribution to Prof. If you wanted me on African continent to give me a model institution, I will take you to UMC in Morocco. Okay. Because when you look at e-learning, like any other program, you look at technology, infrastructure, systems, institutional systems, and the physical infrastructure. Now, most of our learning, most of our universities, our policies are still a problem. Governance elements are still a problem. You even find even at national level. You read at our national budget was passed recently. The whole of digital transformation agenda has 189 billion, right? But when you look at the Office of the Speaker of Parliament, it is, or the Parliament legislature, it has 956 billion. Okay, we are saying we want a nation to be digital led into a middle income. What are we investing in? So that's why we still have challenges of connectivity at parish level, connectivity in those areas. So Morocco, and if you go to Mohammed VI University, trust me, you will see what they call a world-class university practicing e-learning on the African continent. They are running a tier 4 data center because as you create content, you need a very large infrastructure as a content. You need a T1 link for connectivity to ensure that connectivity is available 24/7. They are running on a solar, one of the largest solar plants on a university campus in Africa. So you realize the things they are doing, and they have also put in experts. Actually, some of their courses are available in EDX, and EDX is one of the premium locations for a well-developed online programs. You have Coursera and others, but EDX is one of the top that you can look at. So if you want a benchmark, it's a platform you can go to. But now Forum, because you say Forum has the opportunity to get this, but yeah, because I mean, in terms of bringing all the universities together and probably putting resources, to me, I think this would be well, maybe this is part of the effort towards that. But that's why, Thomas, you're here. I think Forum is trying. The one initial step was to create the Forum e-learning academy. Exactly, to support the network for those who could not afford the platform and the associated payments. They are working on extensively on human capacity. That's why most of us are displaced. But also I understand they did an e-learning readiness assessment. I started to be corrected that which is here. Among the members of the network, find the structural gaps, the infrastructure, the policy, so they can maybe support them to address those gaps. That's good. Yeah, because I think Forum stands at a better position to actually leverage all these things together with the challenges still. Of course, these challenges will not go anywhere.
No. Yes, that's true. That's why the Forum was looking at like regional anchor universities who can support each other within the region. So you identify a strong university in East Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, and then North Africa. Yeah. Then these can share ideas for how we can improve. Yeah. Thank you very much. So we have also another raised hand from Samuel Wanjema. Samuel, please go ahead and ask your question. Introduce yourself and then ask your question.
My name is Samuel Wanjema from the School of Business in Karatina University, Kenya.
Thank you.
I have three issues or three concerns. Number one is how to deal with the issues of the protocols of the handling the e-learning systems and the e-learning mode of delivery, so that you know, in a normal classroom there will be clear procedures and rules that are set for handling classes. But I don't know, could there be a way where, for example, if you are looking for those collaborations like the ones that you have spoken earlier on, that we develop common protocols for handling the e-learning mode of delivery. Number two,
Samuel, sorry, can you repeat that question? Our facilitators have not got it clearly. The first one.
The first question was
yes.
the issue of protocols. I know
Yes.
it's important when you're handling in a class, there are specific rules and procedures and so on. And for the e-learning, there is a concern on how to have a common sort of guidelines or protocols for handling e-learning classes. And maybe just in connection with what you have talked about, as you're looking for, you know, those regional associations of universities, maybe you can think about developing common protocols so that then they can be shared across board. The second issue, although it was you know, sort of touched on, is the threats that are presented by artificial intelligence, and more so when it comes to giving student tasks and assignments. Maybe you are requesting them to undertake the task, maybe come back later. How do you overcome these threats? How do we ensure that we are also not producing what I would call artificial kind of students that may not be able to tackle real issues of day to day? Finally, that issue is to do with assessment, especially online assessments, the exams. And now considering that most of the exams that are done online, you realize that for easy administration, mostly they tend to go towards the multiple choice kind of questions. But then there's an issue that comes up on the integrity of the exams. How do you overcome the issue of cheating, especially when the exams have to be done online and maybe the students are remotely located? How do you ensure that we safeguard the integrity of the exams? And considering that now we are in the age of artificial intelligence and all those advanced technologies, how do we safeguard the integrity? Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Our facilitators are going to respond to your three questions.
So I picked two in general because the second one looks to be related to the last one.
Okay, I think the first one is on the second one is on artificial intelligence.
Which is related to.
And then the third one is on cheating, how you can tackle cheating on online exams.
So maybe let's start referring, and I'm happy that someone asked the third question, which I had a PhD student who just submitted her thesis for examination. And once she's ready to defend, I invite all of you to come and listen, because she's actually doing a PhD on enhancing the integrity of online assessment in e-learning platforms. But what we found out is that, you know, there are many ways you can enhance this particular assessment. The only trick is that you must increase the ownership of the material that you're assessing to the learner you're actually assessing. So one of the models we did in this PhD was that if a learner is doing, for example, taking the exams here, you can adapt the keyboard to have biometric readers, okay? so that the one who is typing, I'm actually reading your fingerprints as you type the questions. So the letters are coming, but at a very regular interval, I'm actually reading who is actually typing, beyond what I'm typing. So looks rudimentary, it looks work sometimes. ISPAT had a very interesting scarecrow approach. So they had a camera that takes the learner sitting on online exam every 5 minutes and touches the learner template to that particular record of what it's so far. So I know that who's seated behind the machine. However, the problem is that you need a very advanced AI to ensure that I have not created a screen template for you. Because they can create a screen template and you read, the camera reads what because you've seen now guys breaking into houses by jamming your cameras. So it can happen, but that's another way you can do it. So, but really, the fundamental element when you're doing assessment, and in the face of AI and student-centered learning and personalized learning, which we're advancing, then the assessment should have an in-person kind of attribution to the work. So that's why you're seeing professors and scholars across the globe, they are pushing through a lot of, when it comes to assessment, it is practical, it is interview-based, it is testimony-based. So you have to come and defend your work. There are different approaches, but those are the few that I've seen that maybe can work. Then in terms of standardization, I agree. When you talk about e-learning in an institution, the question is, what constitutes e-learning? Does posting slides on a learning platform equal to e-learning? Yeah? The answer is no. E-learning is a process, yeah, that involves step one up to the last stage of assessment and grading. Yeah. So what elements of that learning process are we automating using e-learning? And which tools you use? So you'll find that a good learning involves both asynchronous and asynchronous learning approaches. So you use learning management system to post content and put class activities and do the class management, but maybe you're using tools like Zoom, Google Class, and the Skype and others to improve your live interactivity with the learners. So I totally agree that each institution must look at the discipline, right? The resources, and standardize the practices and the pedagogy of e-learning to reflect the unique context. That's the best approach. You cannot easily have, people in agriculture, they have different things. In medicine, they want different things. There's a huge debate. Would you want a doctor who has learned virtually to operate a person, you to become the first living human being to be operated on? That he has learned, because there are all these virtual virtual reality where he can operate a body of a human being. Yeah. But would you really want someone has never touched the skin and the tissue and the blood of a human being, going to be the first person under the neck of that person? The answer is no. We still need doctors to touch dead bodies and create the fear of blood. So those will be my inputs.
Okay, thank you. I don't know whether, I think Prof. Jude Lubega was not around, but there were some questions which were asked, and the President has addressed most of them regarding how to improve the online assessments and how the AI. He has already responded to them. So thank you very much. I think now, but there is another question from another attendee on Q&A. That how can Euroforum member institutions, these trainings are appreciated, but some of the systems and resources needed to support e-learning integrity are unavailable or lacking at the institutions. Subscription to plagiarism checkers are a challenge for institutional staff and students. Could Euroforum help?
think that question will come to the forum. Because just as you put up the REP, the Reform Learning Platform, and I think that's a very good addition to the network. That if we have a subscription, it may be a greater range of licenses that could support the network with plagiarism check. And it's actually a very big problem. Even without AI, by the way, because now the other challenge we have, most institutions do not publish their thesis online. Okay. Now, if a student did a thesis in Rwanda and had it in the hard book and submitted and got an award, and my student plagiarized that work by learning notice in some form, I have no point of reference because this work is not a published material. So what I actually want to recommend in that Forum could encourage by setting up a repository where thesis and these outputs can be published. So that it's very, very easy because if you're going to get AI must have a knowledge base to extract the data. If this data remains under the book, then we shall pull the AI. Yeah. So I think what we need that the member institution need to publish a lot of their content, particularly the thesis and the research output come from those learners, so that we fight this element of plagiarism. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are going to look into that, but for now we have a system for plagiarism check. However, we use it mainly for the papers which come to the journals for publication, because you know these systems have a restricted number, and so the higher the number of papers you're going to take, the higher the cost. So, but the repository is also there, so we are going to improve it and how to integrate the thesis and the dissertations which are submitted. But there is also another question from Professor Levy. My experience about cheating on exams online is that it's very manageable. By Moodle learning system, an exam can be programmed to start at the same time. An answer cannot be re-entered, and the time limit for each question is possible, and a plagiarization button activated for as a question in respect to summative assessment. I was once a victim of massive cheating when I subscribed a reading and a final question on it. Okay, thank you, Professor Levy. I think he's also giving easy experience. Other maybe instructors can learn from this by integrating the time limit, the time the exam can start, and how you can program it. Yeah, I think this is useful. And then also additional, I think someone can ensure that you don't, you cannot, maybe you can lock the screen. There is also an option of locking the screen such that you cannot go and search maybe in the search engine or something like that. And then, so other institutions, they set up a specific place where you can sit the exam. Maybe you have the computer there where someone is monitoring, or the cameras are monitoring you. So all this can actually help to minimize cheating. So thank you very much. Now I think we should go for lunch, and then we will come back after 1 hour for the afternoon session based on the East African time. So the rest of the continent, we are going away for 1 hour. So just count, depending on your time zone, we are coming back after 60 minutes. Thank you for attending this session, but don't go away. See you later.